The following program has been rated GE by the Kenya Film Classification Board. It is therefore suitable for general family viewing.
Hello, viewer. Welcome to Chungu Jamii. My name is Betty Akuku. I am your host today, and we are in the studio, thankful to the situation that is happening right now. We are talking about conflict resolutions. I am joined by Joanne, who is going to be shedding more lights from an expert's point of view. Please join us. Our SMS line is 21144. We have a Facebook page, GBS TV Africa, and we are also on YouTube. We are streaming live. You could join us. We'll be getting your conversations, and we'll be getting back to your questions and the second part of the show. Welcome, Joanne. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you very much, Betty. My name is Joanne. Joanne Kerera is my name. I am a family therapist. Joanne Kerera on all social media handles. I am a blogger at joannekerera.com and a YouTuber at Joanne Kerera. Well, thank you for having me, Betty.
Welcome, John. Good to see you after such a long time.
Yes.
I think I've only seen you virtually. Anyway, today we are talking about conflict resolution. You could probably tell us what that is so that we don't leave anyone who is following us behind.
So to define conflict resolution, we need to define what conflict is, and I'm going to break it down into a common language that we all understand.
Okay.
So conflict is formed when we have difference in opinions. If me and you are thinking differently, then right there is a conflict because we don't see things in the same way. And I need to say conflict is a normal journey and a normal thing in life. There's nothing wrong with conflict. And so resolution is how to resolve that, how to correct that conflict, how to make peace after there has been that conflict. I believe that is simple enough for everyone
Very
to understand.
simple, very simple. A lot of understanding that is out there for lack of knowledge is that conflict is a fight. But you put it so simply that it's just a difference in opinion. When you have opinion A and I have B, then that's a conflict right there. Exactly. And because you have to move the same path or towards the same direction, or we have a similar objective, then you need to resolve this for us to be able to achieve.
Yes.
But people think that conflict is a fight. So when I say, oh, Betty and Joanne are having a conflict, people start imagining wild and big negativity. Is that correct?
I know.
It's
that
not.
For me is actually not correct, but I would say that is informed by something.
Okay.
Because I remember dealing with people, I hear people saying, growing up, I wasn't allowed to think differently. I was supposed to flow along. I am bringing that perspective of how one was raised, because probably that is defined by that experience, the people that you lived around, and what conflict meant to different people along your journey of growth. So it must be coming from somewhere, because conflict on itself is a normal journey of life, something that happens to. There's no single day that will end before you resolve the conflict. But if I perceive conflict as this huge negativity or argument or a fight, then probably that is going to inform the style I used to resolve it. True. And we will talk about that much later, but the way I look at a conflict determines the style that I'm going to use to resolve it, or the methods that I'm going to be using to resolve it.
I'm glad to hear that there are actually styles and methods to resolve it, other than people just resorting to one way. You have a conflict and there is a fight. You have a conflict and you take that person to court. You have a conflict and, you part ways, So there are many different ways and styles of resolving conflict.
Yeah.
Okay, so when people are conflicted, does that mean the same thing to everyone? You already mentioned that this depends on your upbringing and maybe where you grew up. Does it mean the same to everyone? Because what may be a conflict to me may be so petty and maybe not petty, but something so small that you can deal with just like that.
I like what you're asking because you're bringing it to actual things that happen in day-to-day life.
Yeah.
That something is going to happen and one partner in that conflict, whether it is a spousal one or general friendship, one is going to say, but why are they responding to something so petty? Why are they making a big issue out of something so little?
Yes.
So no, we don't perceive conflicts in the same way because again we said it's difference of opinion. So the way I see things and the way someone else see things is very different, and that is allowed. So for conflict to be resolved, one has to begin a journey of asking themselves, how am I experiencing this particular thing? And now is Betty experiencing? Betty is the other partner in this conflict.
Yes.
How is Betty experiencing this very conflict? Because unless I understand how I am experiencing it, and now Betty is experiencing it, then we cannot resolve. Because I will be resolving from a selfish point of view, mine, which is what is making you react. That is something very little. And probably it has hurt you deeply because you are different from me. Yeah.
That probably means that for us to be able to resolve, then one person kind of has to let go of the opinion and absorb the others, or they find a meeting place. But anyway, before we get to how to resolve, let's talk about some of the styles, you know, and or rather what make people to get conflicted, especially in love relationships, in work relationships, because when you're getting to work, you're getting a contract, you know what you're supposed to do, and your boss knows what their part is. In a marriage, you know what you're supposed to do as a wife, and the man knows what they're supposed to be. Is there something that compels or propels conflicts? Can people just exist in peace? I kind of know that by now it's inevitable. You cannot but have conflicts, you know. But what propels?
I laugh because you said when we get into a marriage, we know what we're expected to do and what the other person is expected to do. I wish that was always the case, even in our work environment. Actually, yes. Sort of, we ideally are expected to know.
Yes.
But remember that we are holistic beings with a mind, with thinking capacity, with feelings, and with also different perspectives. So while even in a work environment, I know what I'm expected to do, sometimes I don't do it, and for a good cause.
Yes.
Maybe good reason.
Yes.
More work or whatever the reason
Which should be
is.
justifiable.
Okay, justifiable or not. So the expectation is you should do what is expected.
True.
But for us to resolve this work conflict issue, I may need to know now that this is what you're supposed to do and it is not done. What has been happening or what has caused it? Now, this one does not mean I give up my way of thinking or the expectation that I know or the ideal or the set standard. But it means that I am bringing you on board so that I understand if there is any good reason. Now, this happens to be one of the best ways of resolving conflict, having to involve the other person and to hear from them what is happening from their end. Now, once you hear, then you can decide if they just came to work late, so they weren't able to meet. Now that's different. But if they give a reason, like I had an accident in the morning and so I had to go to the hospital, blah, 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 then you see this is a genuine reason.
Yes.
You can reason from that point. So how do we resolve this issue? Because you have understood your point and their point. But most of the time we don't go to that level because we believe, based on our opinion, we are the right ones. And that is the most difficult thing in conflict, especially in love relationships. My expectation is final. It should be as I expect. If I am dating this person, I am married to this person, then it is automated that they need to do 1, 2, 3. Unless that has been communicated and agreed upon, that is blooming conflict already there. Because I am expecting that you come back at 6 p.m.
Yes.
We've never talked about it, but isn't it obvious? You are a mommy or you are a daddy, it is obvious.
Yes.
Or you are a partner anyway. So if you're not coming at that point, you're not meeting my expectations, you find me very angry. Conflict has already formed.
True.
So you get home and you're thinking, what's the problem again? And I'm thinking, what is not the problem anyway? Like you should automatically know. So we are not resolving conflict because number one, we are lacking to communicate, to understand my part and your part. Then now we can pick it from there and decide which way works.
Talking about communication, you could have a very small conflict or very big, depending on your perspective of what conflict is.
Yes.
But someone would just blow it up by the way they communicate, and someone who is also looking at it, be it a very big and complex thing, can handle it so maturely, in a very reasonable way. Then you come later and check, what happened? The way you expect this is going to end up at the police station, but someone just came in and calmed it down. Is there a difference in the way people handle things, especially when it comes to communication? Because, for example, if your maybe house help just broke a glass, there's a way you can talk about it. You know what? This glass is 100 shillings. I'm going to take a pay cut from your salary to restore this. Or, you're fired. And then there are lots of things. Does communication influence this in a way?
Totally. Actually, good conflict resolution is 98% communication. Yes, and at this point, I want to introduce the styles that different people use. And as introduce styles by talking about the perspective that people see, because that's what you brought. Based on how I look at conflict, the perspective. Some people look at conflict as a terrible thing, and others look at conflict as an opportunity for growth. Okay? Or a good thing, rather. So the ones who look at conflict positively are the ones who settle issues, even if it was a police case, and it is resolved.
Amicably.
Yes, because you're looking at... So the person who is looking at it as an opportunity for growth, they ask, what is my part in this conflict? Okay? Say, for example, there's employer who comes to an employee who has broken a glass, is to ask, how do I perceive breaking of the glass? Do I think it is carelessness? Is it disrespect from the house help, for example? If I see it that way, I'll be looking at, I need to deduct to discipline you, or I need to I'll come to the one that fires. That one is a colleague yake. Or I am going to, or I am going to make noise because you broke the glass. Then there's this person who looks at it as an opportunity for growth, who asks themselves, if I was doing dishes for 1 month, is it possible to break this glass once? And they will tell themselves it is possible.
Yes.
So this one is going to be addressing it from this point of view, that it is possible. What are the times that are broken glasses? What was happening? Was I angry? Was I overwhelmed? What was happening? Then they are going to be asking, now that you broke the glass or 2 glasses, are you okay? Is something happening?
Yeah.
Is it too much work? Are you angry? Are you in good mental space? Then if they deny all that, then probably you may need to warn them to be more careful next time. That conflict has been resolved.
Grace, Joan, that is a very important bit, because when people... Since it is inevitable to have conflict, then it means you must find a way of resolving.
Yes.
And you already bring in the styles of doing that.
Yes.
And you have brought in the different perspectives that people have to use or rely on to resolve the conflict.
Yes.
I wonder which school of knowledge or maturity or wherever school of thought that you have to go to learn such kinds of things, because conflicts are always there and they will always be there. But the reason people are fighting and killing each other, the reason there is divorce and separation and depression and all these major diseases, I guess it's because people don't know or have not learned how to resolve conflict. If people only lived in peace without conflict, I mean, everyone would be so happy. No one would fight the other. There would be no divorce. There would be no crime. People would just live peacefully and, in a very conducive space.
Yes.
Why must somebody learn how to resolve? Is it so important? Because I'm thinking of someone who's looking at us and watching right now and listening, and they're just wondering conflict resolution. I mean, who doesn't know that? Why do I have to do that? If you step on my foot, I step back.
Oh, that is resolving conflict. Yes, actually what we're discussing is a day-to-day skill that is required by everyone.
Day-to-day skill.
Yes. Conflict resolution is taught, it needs to be taught to young children. And now, let me begin there going up. Where is this one learned? Now, as a parent, you cannot go back to your young child and learn. So you have to learn as an adult. But also conflict resolution, proper one or effective one, is done by people who are in good mental space.
Okay.
Remember, good mental space.
Sure.
If I am overwhelmed by other emotions and, all the other kind of issues overwhelming me, I am not in good space to look at things from a proper perspective. And we are saying the most healthy way of resolving conflicts is being able to look at both sides, not just standing my part, because I'm looking at this as an opportunity for growth for both of us.
Yes.
So this is where I have to ask myself, what is my mental space? Most of the times when we get thrown off balance by things that are happening every single day, we are not in good space. Either we have carried a lot of other issues from
we need
other
some
quarters.
soberness.
Yes, we are actually not sober in that sense. Although sober can mean many things, but sober in the sense of we are not, our mental space is not okay. Yes. But when our mental space is okay, we are able to see things from another different perspective. But when we are in pain, we will look at things, everything that happens to us through the eyes of pain. We feel the pain, this one that is happening, and the previous one that is already in our lives. So for us to resolve issues, we've got to be sure that every single day we are walking a journey of ensuring that our mental space is okay. We are cultivating this attitude of being fine, and we are investing in it because it's not an event, it's a journey. Mental wellness is a journey.
Yes.
So every single day I'm asking, am I okay? Am I disturbed about something? What do I need to do about it? Be active in taking care of your mental wellness. Once you have, then resolving conflict becomes much more easier because you're able to see conflict for conflict. But you've heard even in marriages that most of the people will tell you, when I make a mistake, files and folders of many years ago are pulled from the cabinet.
Yes.
And they are put together.
Yes.
You see, this is not a person who is in good mental space. If you're still carrying the folders of 2014 and 2001, clearly, Betty, it's not possible to deal with this conflict. So, yes.
But do you think that the reason people unfold the 1980s, files and bring them to the table to resolve a 2020 matter is because they have probably never been resolved? Because if that was dealt with, I mean, that file was just taken to the trash bin.
Yes. It was never resolved, or it was resolved and not completed. Because again, that's another thing we need to look at. People resolve issues, but they don't complete. Now, the other styles, apart from this one where I look at both sides, in other words, this part and this part is looked, we are looking at how do you benefit, how do you benefit. That's the
win-win kind of.
The win-win one.
Yes.
That's the best one. I'm looking at my part and your part. But there are other styles. One of them is avoidance. Forever avoid. Sweep issues under the carpet.
Every time.
They did not happen. And we see a lot of that. You've seen people post on social media that my lover is cheating on me, or my husband, or my wife. And I have been seeing the messages and I have never bothered to ask them. That is a perfect avoidant scenario.
But is it possible to survive?
Okay. But they do. So, well, we are addressing how that method may or may not work. It does not work because the issue hasn't been resolved. You have just refused to face it. But it hasn't been resolved. So, cabinet closed. Those are the ones you go back to and put a list of them.
But that is having conflict with yourself and not with the other person. Because if it is with the other person, you probably have spoken about it and deliberately chosen to cover.
Not exactly. I am angry with you, and you ask me, what is the problem? Nothing. So what is that? Is the
So
same.
that makes me so dysfunctional.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's why we are saying these are not correct methods, but they are highly used.
And they will lead you to
Remember?
depression as well.
Exactly. Because this is a lot of anger internalized
Bottled.
over and over and over and
Yes.
over again. And then one day it's going to overflow either as an illness or one day you wake up and kill someone because you only can take too much.
Okay.
So those methods may not work, but there are times avoidance works as a conflict resolution method. Say I'm using a matatu today, and then the matatu crew begin to talk rudely to me, and I'm looking at them, I'm thinking, these people, how much of my life do they affect?
You're here in this traffic jam
we
for
are
1
so
hour.
done.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I'm thinking,
You just
you know
avoid.
what? Forget about it.
I know.
Now, in that one, avoidance works.
Okay.
Because it doesn't affect me so much. Okay? The weather, being rained on, it does create conflict. Have you seen the way people are rained on and the way they become very aggressive? Then you realize it's just the rain. There's nothing I can do about it. Or you overcharge the matatu, for example. These are normal case scenarios. Then you're like, there's nothing I can do about this.
So avoidance works perfectly.
Avoidance may work in those scenarios. But where issues are touching on you directly, avoidance does not work. That is one of the methods that does not work. It causes a lot of emotional issues, and most of the time, it can even grow even into mental illnesses like depression and anxieties, you see, and others. So there is also another method that is commonly used, especially in marriage setups, for the people who believe in the society is extremely patriarchal, where, for example, a man is going to, and this is not exclusive for man, I'm just using this particular example so that I'm not going to be labeled and used for the purposes of explaining.
Yes.
So where people believe that what a man says is final, and so he's making a bad decision, but you just give in. Like, okay, you try to air your opinion, it is not taken, and you're like, okay, let's go with your way. This one is giving in. You're too accommodating. Now, that is another method that does not work, even in a work setup, where only one person makes decisions and the other members of the team
Just flow in.
So this is another method that ends up causing a lot of resentment to build in because their opinions don't matter.
Accommodating.
Which doesn't work most of the time because it's about, okay, we go, yes.
Your way.
Yes.
So they'll always do it just for you.
Just for you.
Okay.
And that also means that I am not putting into work the ability I have to make decisions, to correct issues, to negotiate, to communicate because it is not allowed, it's blocked, or I am blocking it myself. Because always remember, it's not the person that is accommodated that the way has to pass that is always wrong. Even the one on the receiving end lacks conflict resolution skills.
But has that conflict been resolved?
No.
So it has also been shelved.
It has been shelved, although sometimes, again, accommodating works. It works because we are here thinking, do we make it blue, do we make it green? Blue, green, blue, green. And
I'm thinking of a couple that are planning their wedding, and the lady it has to be this color, and the man says, no. I wonder how they have to come to an agreement.
So one may give in.
Okay.
Like, okay, it doesn't really matter whether it's blue or green. The purpose is the marriage or the wedding. So in that case, accommodation will work. Because, again, it was not between life and death.
In the case where everyone is insisting that their rights, you know, everyone is standing their ground.
Yes.
You know, Joanne, this notebook is yours.
Yes.
And it's just one.
Yes.
But I could also just appear and say, this is mine. So I insist, this notebook is mine, and you also insist, this notebook is yours. So what do we need, and how do we get out of such a conflict where we are both insisting?
Yes.
Think of a couple, for example, who have bought property together. they probably have their names on it, they have shared the monies, or it is under one person's name, you know. And so now conflicts have risen and they want a way out. And they're not resolving it. So their battle is, it's mine, it's mine. So everyone is right.
Yes. And that's a bad way of resolving conflict, which is again terrible. Aggression, when it gets to everyone is right, is because it is only my way that matters. Now, if you're dating, please hear me on this one. That is a red flag. If someone sticks to their own and they cannot budge, and that's an aspect of control. So if people are there, each one of them stuck at their own end and saying your opinion doesn't matter, and on your end you're saying your opinion doesn't matter, then that couple may need help, professional help, to build this skill, because it could be lacking. And number two, they could be dealing with other emotional issues.
Could it be an issue of personality? Because you cannot be two different people, you know, just fighting over one thing, and none of you is seeing that we are getting nowhere. You know, there are people who will say, until you come down, me, I'm not coming. And even you, until you come down, I'm not coming. So let's meet when you are the one who has come down.
What about you?
Even me, I'm not coming down until you come down.
Oh.
So, you know, it's such, you have had people who have gone to see a counselor, and everyone is sticking on their side. And
Because we see a lot that we see
I
that
guess
a lot.
you do, you know, because of
We
your
do,
work.
yeah.
Yes. How do you resolve such kinds of things?
So it's a genre. That's why I said they need help to build that skill, because when they build the skill, they begin to understand that by each of them being aggressive, it does not solve. Because
It doesn't. I don't think so, because it sounds to me like you're a king.
Yes.
And he or she is a king as well. So no one is getting off the throne. No one is getting off the throne.
Yes.
So who leaves? How do you just convince someone to leave their seat? And who sits there?
there is a way to do that, and that is now done in therapy or in a setup of counseling. So there's a way to do that, because unless every two aggressive cases cannot present the same way. So we handle them based on how they are presenting, so that we train them skill. But now that is also an indicator of someone who has inability to manage emotions. Okay? Because it's not about the skill. And people singizia personality, I know I've heard that a lot. But you see, every personality can be worked on. And we will discuss how personality causes or affects the conflict resolution. But every personality can be worked on. Even the people who are so bossy and so, you know, they are typical leaders who have to be on the front line, keeping moving. They still regulate their personality when they learn emotional intelligence.
They can adjust.
They actually do adjust, not they can adjust. They actually do adjust. So that you realize, well, my ways, I have very good opinions that work all the time, but it doesn't mean someone else doesn't have. So they learn to regulate there so that you calm down even with all your, you know, ability to move forward and listen to the other person.
I'm curious to learn how a king would leave their throne for another king that they are not in agreement with. Before then, let's take a break. Viewer, we are taking a short break. I hope you have sent in your questions and your concerns and even your contributions toward this show, having a conversation with us. We're coming back shortly talking about conflict resolution with Joanne here. See you shortly.
Hello, I'm Dr. Ruben West
I'm Dr. Charles Mukuka
from the United States of America.
I come from Ethiopia.
from Zambia.
I love Kenya very much.
I love the Kenyan people.
Love is not by confession. Love is by action.
Come on now.
When you are a husband, you are not a husband.
It's very important.
You can count the seeds in an apple, but you can never count the number of apples in a seed.
Her phone is her phone. My phone is my phone.
You only know what you know.
Who forced you?
The more you spend time together, the more strong you.
A woman is like a Bible.
To tell me that they were born and it wasn't from a female, I'd like to know.
A woman, she's a good asset. And the woman, she's a very, very good investment.
We make up over 3/4 of Africa, the under 35s.
We are the 77%.
They want to shape the continent's future. Be part of it and join African youngsters as they share their stories, their dreams, and their challenges. The 77%, DW's platform for Africa's majority.
님 운명하셨습니다.
배꼽 좀 넘쳐.
저 이 집 식구예요.
인생 뭐 있습니까?
일식 느껴져요. 선생님의 심장.
소방님!
우리 새 1일 드라마 기막힌 유산.
내가 총알을 죽었단 말이야? 어?
The woman is burdened so much, such that they don't have time for themselves.
If you don't go after what you want, there's going to be hurt, there's going to be disappointment, there's going to be regret, there's going to be let down.
I love people.
People will always have a view.
They will always have an
Whether
opinion.
you like it or not.
It's always there.
People will put you in a shame box.
You have to love yourself first.
I'm not that person.
It should come from deep conviction, and I'm talking about conviction. I'm not talking about emotional giving.
Then that should pose a big problem.
A man won't handle that. They will just run.
Families break. Marriages don't exist anymore.
There's so many people out there pretending like they don't have the problem, pretending like their relationship is not on the rock.
What was that?
That's nonsense.
Get lost.
No. I think.
Everywhere, GBS.
Welcome back, viewer. We are talking about conflict resolution, and I'm here with Joanne. So, Joanne, before we went on a break, we were yet to looking at how people resolve conflicts. And I guess we have touched on the very formal ways. And I would like us to get now to the ground, how issues are on the ground. Sometimes you talk and people say, that's not how things are. You come, we'll show you. So sometimes, I don't mean in the village, just in Nairobi, just in an urban setup. When you relate to the people, of course, you'll have conflicts here and there. We already say that is inevitable. But there are those times, Joanne, that you are meaning well to resolve something, but the other person just walks out on you like, you do this because you despise me. You do this to me because I'm poor, because you're driving, that's why you treat me like this, because you have sons and I don't have sons, I only have daughters, because you have money and I don't have money. I find that they are so petty. I'm avoiding to say the word. But those are the things that happen in the society. You serve people with a glass of juice like this, and you get to me and give me a plastic cup. Before understanding that where you're coming from, the glasses are done, my immediate thought is like, she despises me. I am the low person in the society. That's why they do that. What do you call that? Can conflicts really be resolved with such kind of a mindset?
Yeah, that happens a lot. I was listening to and replaying very many scenarios in my headspace. And this is also very common between the people who work in the house as house helps, or, the people who help around the house and their employers. There's always that feeling of, if you say it, feed the baby first, is because hautaki nikule, because I am the house help. Or even when an employer has delayed to pay you your salary, instead of approaching the issue, which is unpaid salary, you already conclude that ni madharau sababu mimi sijiwezi, hakuna mahali naweza mpeleka. So this usually comes about because the person has self-esteem issues. The way you look at yourself, you've already labeled yourself based on your situation. But what these kind of people do not know is situation can change anytime. So unless you look at yourself as a human being who has full potential capacity and who deserves good treatment, then you're going to be labeling yourself because people are treating you in a certain way. Okay?
These people are not able to overcome the socioeconomic barriers because they even fear to relate with you. They just judge you to be up here and they're down here, and so they don't want to get to you. You do something to them. Oh, he talks to me like that because I don't drive, because I don't have money, because I live in this estate, because I do this, because they do an 8 to 5 kind of job, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. Such kind of approaches.
Because I do not have children.
Yes.
Because I was declared chronically ill. And you see, all these things do not need to define anyone. We do appreciate that those things are hard enough, so we are not trying to minimize them and make these people look petty. Now, they actually may not be petty, but they need to realize that they have an area they need to work around. Because if, like today, I don't have a car, it has not changed me from being human. If today I don't have workers, for example, I'm still human.
Yes.
If I'm doing a low caliber job, I'm still human. So at the end of the day, I am a human being. So I need to look at my way to resolve conflict from the place of I am a human being resolving issues with a human being, right? I also imagine they may have had some nasty experiences with the people who are doing well or better in their socioeconomic class that may have defined how they look at themselves. But still, even if one person treated you wrong, it does not mean every other person in that class treats you wrong. So see yourself as a human being first, and see themselves as human first, and negotiate from the place of humanness. So if that is not possible, if now they are the ones who are showing you attitude for being in that space, if someone tells you outrightly, you're poor, you can't negotiate with me, now that's different. But still remember, you can choose to define yourself past the poverty, because that can change any day.
True.
So if you find yourself always taking these personal issues as personal attack, instead of looking at the issue as the issue. And I have had to tell people severally, whether they are higher than me or lower, whatever meter that measures higher or lower, I don't know which one, but either one of them, I have had to tell people, let's address the issue.
And not
all the other feelings involved. Let's address the issue first. Then once you are clear on the issue, you will still tell me if you feel the same.
How does personality, Joanne, affect conflict resolution?
Oh, that's another huge one, because the extroverts, depending with which extrovert person that you are, they want to handle issues and move on with life. But still, let me classify. There are two kind of extroverts. One of them is the choleric ones to handle things in their bossy. They will tell you as it is. They are blunt. They are hated actually. They are hated for being factual, and they are seen to be abrasive. And they can be, especially if a choleric has not handled themselves and regulated their personality. They are going to be crashing, hitting on everyone, not caring how they feel, and saying, ukweli uma. By the way, if you hear people saying ukweli uma, highly likely they are cholerics. So those ones can be very abrasive, and they can really hurt, especially if they're dealing with a mild phlegmatic who is a peace lover, who does not like war, who wants things to be okay, and definitely holds grudges for longer. So you will hurt this person because they are peace lovers, they are actually avoidant. Atakuwa nasikiza tu ana coil, but they are so wounded within, so that one hasn't been resolved. The choleric things, see, we solved. So you solved, the other person never solved anything.
The phlegmatic has just bottled. And one day they're going to just burst out.
Yes. Males as well, melancholics also, they just take in. They take in. They analyze. They ruminate over them. They magnify them. Whoever you have moved on, they are there.
But it stops them from moving on.
They don't move on, of course. They don't move on. They bottle, and they can easily become depressed and develop moods, and also find it difficult to be able to continually relate. So when two people constantly working together, or they are in a marriage, are different personalities, they need to understand each of the personalities and the best approach to use on a teammate, on a partner, on a friend, so that then I am not going to be using my abrasive method thinking, to move on sisi wote. I might need to go to their level and say, this is how I say things. How do you see it? And sometimes they tell you, let me think about it. And you're thinking there, think about what? It's in black and white. Come on. So you might need to.
I'm sorry to say, but you know, that is what happens a lot in marriages. You know, women are the ones who always want it sorted here and now. But the men, I don't know whether they do not have whatever it takes to handle. They never have the answer. Mostly, I don't know if this is just what I've had, a lot of experience that I've had, but mostly they say, I'm thinking about it. Okay, I've had, I will solve it. And you know, they never come back to you and tell you, by the way, following our conversation previously, I have thoughts and these are my resolutions. You will still have to go back to them. I mean, do you ever resolve things? Because it makes you feel like you're nagging, you're pushy, you're just there. And they want you to assume, we have solved this, it's gone, we have moved to the next thing. Have you really solved? You know, when I look at how some husbands try to resolve conflict, you have had such a bad morning, and then someone just goes, and in the evening he's back with a pack of chocolate.
Yes.
And he's given you, and in his mind, we are done. Really, is that how it works for women?
Oh,
have you had such kinds of cases in your office?
Yes, yes, they are. But also realize that not all men are like that. But let me, there are very many theories to why men are the way they are and women are the way they are. But let me use a cultural perspective. That it is only women who were allowed to nurture their emotions and verbalize how they feel about things. I mean, averagely. I know that is debatable, but let me say averagely. Because you would see a girl crying, and when a boy cries, he's told, stop crying. That is left for girls. And the girl was told, you cry. And they would even be left to cry.
Yeah.
And then, even today, if you look, girls are more nurtured.
To verbalize.
Hey, mama, talk about it, nini. Now, boys are almost expected to move on.
Yes.
And they are raised that way. Like, things are happening, move on.
I know.
So then they're adults, and we want them to now become...
To verbalize and...
it's something
that's
that
where it
has
stems
to be,
from.
Yes. That is one perspective. I said there are very many theories to it, but that is one of the theories. So for the women, by extension, we learned to feel our emotions. Actually, if you ask a woman, Kwani, what are you feeling? They tell you sad. Ask 5 males. Ask 5 male people. They will tell you, what am I feeling? Almost they won't put a finger on it, but we will. So you're there saying, you make me hurt. I feel hurt. I feel sad. And this person here is thinking, okay. Then they leave. Then they say, but I heard you. So you didn't resolve because
so sad. You know, that makes it even worse.
Oh,
that doesn't resolve that conflict. In my opinion, that doesn't resolve it.
Especially on the woman's part, because it hasn't been resolved.
Yes.
So after bringing the pack of chocolate, it is important for us. Did we complete the morning conversation? It is important to ask that way. And even when you're brought a packet of chocolate and you take a hug, please don't communicate peace if you have not made peace with that. You need to say, thank you for the chocolate. This was
But-
thoughtful of you. I still feel we have unresolved business in the morning.
I
Can
think
we
that
finish
women
it
are
up?
so weak when it comes to that. They'll fall in for the chocolate and their day is done and everything is fine and can I take you for lunch and can I buy you dinner? Which dress have you seen lately? I saw a pair of shoes that fits you well, and you forget everything. Does it really happen that you forget everything, or come 2025 you're going to open the 2020 files?
It is accommodated. You give in to the chocolate and forget the issue wasn't resolved.
So how do you then resolve this? How do you resolve these issues completely out of your file so that you are never going to bring them back?
Sorry, Betty, back to what I said. Appreciate the chocolate and appreciate the thought behind it. Still go back to the issue. After all, now you're both calm.
Okay.
The emotions are not very heavy.
Okay.
Then we say, I don't think we completed the morning discussion. Can we complete it? Now I'm more calmer, right? So I'm saying, can we complete it? I don't feel like we were able to finish on 1, 2, 3 perspectives. Can we finish them? Highly likely you will say yes because emotions are not high.
But the man's ego, Joanne.
If he says no, then either he lacks skill completely or is avoidant type. Who we don't resolve issues here, we move on. We sweep them under the carpet, we move on. Remember, that is not conflict resolution.
Yes, so what about this couple who one party is always avoiding and the other one wants to resolve? They will end up divorcing and separating because they cannot resolve. What happens to them? How do they now resolve?
That's a very unhealthy couple. And unresolved issues are the cause for very many issues, inclusive of divorce, inclusive of difficulty in intimacy, inclusive of consistent fights, because every little thing is going to trigger the balance.
Yeah.
So that couple is already in a very toxic space. So what happens to that marriage? It is a very toxic marriage. It is a very toxic workplace where issues are not addressed.
They've got to live with it?
That is a choice. If you don't choose yourself or you have no capacity to choose yourself, then you can remain in a toxic environment. But remember, toxic environment is very detrimental even to your own health, right? So that's why I'm saying, if you don't have capacity to choose yourself or you have not chosen yourself, then you will live in a toxic environment. But you can also choose yourself and decide to create boundaries in this toxicity where you say, listen, if we are not going to resolve issues, then I am not going to be comfortable staying here because it's affecting my mental space. We might need to work on a separation or seek professional help. And mean that so that now if he says me, I cannot seek professional help, then you might need to make peace with the fact that you might need to exit that setup because it's not healthy for you, it's not healthy for the children if there are any, it's not healthy for anyone. Yes.
It's unfortunate how it may just end up there. I feel bad that we are out of time. And I look at the couples that have to struggle in such a way and end up living together for the sake of the children and not for the marriage. And I wonder, for those especially who are not vocal enough, for those who cannot step out and seek help, for those who have self-esteem issues, and for those who cannot face the society and just overcome, those standards that society has put. Because every time you hear someone is going to a counselor or to a psychologist, you're always like, oh, you have issues, those are some of the things society has branded us that we don't want to step out of our space to go and seek help.
You see where we
and I wonder how they can actually live together happily.
Sorry again. You remember where you said some people look at conflicts as a terrible thing for the relationship? So I don't think I would have issues if someone asked you have issues. I would gladly say, of course, we have lots of them. We solve them each day, and the ones we can't solve, we need help. Because literally, even as I asked Betty, you have issues. I have issues myself. Every single day I have issues.
You should say that louder, because that's where people fail. The reason why we mostly don't seek help is the not admitting that we have issues. And the moment I say that I have issues, then stigma, victimization, immediately there's that kind of mindset. Oh, you've been married only 1 year and you're already having issues, you know? And so I don't want to say, I want to pause and look like all is fine. I want to mask forever, you know, because of what is out there, what you guys are going to say. So I cannot even resolve my conflicts.
That's a very sad thing, because everyone married knows that the first year is one among the hardest.
No, not everyone.
I mean, literally everyone experienced that. There's no
Yes.
one who had a different life, because adjusting, transitioning is a lot of work. So I believe people are just not being honest with what there is. Because I could be facing a situation, and when I hear from you, I get shocked. But why am I getting shocked? I am going through the same. But now that we cannot force everyone to be real, then this is where, when you need help, seek it from professionals who can walk the journey with you without judging you. And you don't have to tell the world you're seeking help if you're not comfortable being stigmatized. Because it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to seek help, and it's okay not to want the world to stigmatize you for your issues.
It's okay to not be okay.
Yes, it's okay to not be okay. So that is, we need to take it upon ourselves to seek help for ourselves. And finally, this issue of we are staying for the babies. In a conflicted relationship like that one, which babies are you staying for? Because they're in a very, which children will thrive in a toxic space, Betty?
It affects the children's growth as well.
Actually, it incapacitates them. It affects their brain development. It affects their emotional well-being. It affects their physical. It affects their outlook. It affects them in every single way. If you cannot create a safe environment, then don't stay for the children in a toxic environment. You will be doing them more harm than
good. Wow. Great. Joanne, that was really awesome. You have just made me think about how possible it is for people to stay together and pretend to be taking care of their children, because other people also say we can stay apart. And I don't victimize you before the children. I don't tell them this negativity about you, but we find a way, a common factor of surviving and parenting. Please tell to us what your parting shot would be at this time before we end our show.
Conflicts are part of what makes us really grow as individuals. And because every conflict resolved teaches you one more thing, right? So every single time that I resolve a conflict, I learn one more thing. Every time I resolve a conflict, I grow my skill, whether it's communication or decision making, or even being able to negotiate, Betty, and seeing things from your perspective. I am growing gradually. So if at all we can look at conflicts as a way of helping us grow, then we are going to embrace them positively, resolve them, and where we cannot resolve, we will be honest enough to seek help from whatever quarters. Depending with your source of conflict, there's every form of help happening in whatever quarter that you're suffering. So where you cannot resolve it, seek help, resolve it, because that will offer you an opportunity for growth.
Wow. Thank you, Joanne. I'm glad to hear that even for those who avoid and those who just give in, there is still a solution. There is still a way to come out of it and be able to live happily. Wow. Thank you, viewer, for watching. I hope you were able to get solutions and learn something new. If you have been struggling to resolve conflicts that are within your space, at least you carried out, you got one thing out of this conversation, how you're going to do it. If it has been impossible for you and with you, we have heard that there is a support group, there's a support system. There are counselors who are able to walk us through this journey so that we are able to once again be ourselves and be happy. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Betty Akuku. I have been your host.